What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kick and Make Up Show. I'm the American Hybrid Nick Cunningham. With me, as always, Jeremy JD Dorsey. And my God, man, we got a show. We've got a show today.
Right? It's about time.
Right, man. I feel like we combined like the last 3 weeks all in one extravaganza show.
Yep.
That's about how you do in December, though. You have the blowout shows.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been so much going on in the world of MMA and also in the world of Nick Cunningham and Jeremy Dorsey that it's been a little tough to get a show going, but we are here, back, ready to go to talk about all the crazy stuff that's been going on over the past few weeks. And there's been a lot of stuff going on.
Yes, there has. And hey, guess what week it is?
Fight week.
It's fight week.
Is it really?
Yes, it really is.
Okay, I think we should just put like something at the bottom of the screen that says like always fight week.
I feel like every show we do, it's gonna be fight week with as many things that are going on. There's 3 cards this weekend. Tough finale on Friday for the strawweight championship. The UFC on Fox on Saturday, and then World Series of Fighting 16 on Saturday as well. So some choices there. Get your DVRs ready again. Here we go. Let's just say it. We are taped in front of a live studio audience today of dogs.
Of dogs, yes. We have 2 Chihuahuas roaming around. So if you happen to hear some things in the background, it might be them. If I have to yell or something, you know, it might be them too. But you know, hey,
we're not yelling at you. That's rude. That's rude of us. We're not gonna yell at you guys. But before we get into the high kick, the low kick, That's Some BullKick, we are going to get the particulars out of the way just for anybody that's watching this for the first time. This is the Kick and Make Up Show. www.kickandmakeup is the website. You can go there and get all of our archive shows. All of my articles from Ola America are on there too. Pictures and just interviews from our interview series. Some recent ones we just put up last month too. Getting a lot of hits there.
Yeah, gaining a lot of traction, man. It's so crazy when we have our shows that come out on a consistent basis, and then we skip a little bit, but the hits to our website still keep going. So thank everybody for coming out and you know, checking out all the stuff that we have on there, even though we aren't putting up shows as consistent as we would want to be. But that's changing right now.
Right now, right? Yeah. Kick and Make Up Facebook page too. If you're a Facebook guy or girl, go there, type in Kick and Make Up, invite yourself into the show or into the group, and then we'll let you right in, get you in on all the stuff that we post throughout the week, all the latest news. We do polls, we do just everything, just random stuff. That's just fun to keep up. We do try to keep that up pretty well. So yeah, get yourself in on that. We've got Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. At Kick and Make Up is the shows and JD's. At Hybrid MMA is mine. And Instagram and YouTube are doing quite well.
Yeah, really good, really good. Especially the interview series stuff that we got up. Just keep checking those out. Hopefully, if we can ever find a show anywhere within like the 6th state region of the Midwest, we would actually go and you know, get some new interviews, but it's a little tough right now. And I think, you know, I was thinking too, I think it's probably like a weather thing that they don't want to schedule shows in the Midwest around now. But
yeah, so UFC, Bellator, World Series of Fighting, Invicta came and that was awesome, but come back again. Let us get a second chance.
Right?
Maybe in the summer when it's nice out. Anybody come to the Midwest, Chicago, man. We will go. We will cover the hell out of it.
Yes, we will.
And if you don't believe us, go to kickandmakeup.com and check out some of our past shows and see just what we do. So, all right, those are done. We're gonna get right into the intro today. We are going to talk about Joe Rogan first.
Yes.
Before we get into the high kick, we are going to talk about Joe Rogan. And if you guys are MMA fans, and even if you're not, the big talk of the week is Joe Rogan on the Fighter and the Kid podcast, which, if you don't know what that is, the comedian Bryan Callen and UFC fighter Brendan Schaub, who just fought this past weekend at UFC 181, have a Fighter and the Kid podcast. It's a comedy podcast. It's a sports podcast. It's hilarious. It's been around for about a year. And they had Joe Rogan on this past week. And it was probably the most candid, heart-to-heart graphic conversation about brain damage and Joe Rogan pretty much just telling Brendan Schaub to retire. You know, and he said things like, you're never going to be an elite athlete. He can tell by the way he fights. He can tell that all the other stuff he does on the side, he just doesn't put 100% in. And he's never going to be as good enough to beat the likes of Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez. You know, and he just brought up this last fight, which we'll get into with his fight with his first round TKO loss to Travis Brown, and it was just one of those shows where it was very uncomfortable to listen to, but it was probably the best piece, and you and I talked about it yesterday, probably the best piece of radio I've heard in an interview in a long time.
Yeah, and I got a chance to listen to it this morning. I wanted to make sure I was prepped and ready for the show, but
crazy, right?
Yeah, it is, and just to hear, you know, Rogan be so candid and so honest about, you know, what he felt was, you know, the truth. Like, he 100% believes that he has no shot to get to the elite levels, and that he needs to, you know, start thinking about some of the other things, especially with his past history and, you know, having some you know, concussion issues and stuff, and that, you know, you have to start looking towards the future. You have to start looking at, okay, is this something that is smart for me to continue to do? Because if it is, you know, you can keep doing it, but you have to understand the risks that are involved. Like, there's so many issues like that going on with sports these days, and where you have to sort of juxtapose the fame, the celebrity of being involved in a sport, but also how your future is going to be.
Right.
Is it worth, you know, at the age of 50, you know, having, you know, severe mental issues, or, you know, having some other sort of debilitating injury or something like that? Like,
right.
It's not necessarily worth it, and you have to determine that. I don't know if it's right necessarily for Joe Rogan to tell him that.
Right.
But
yeah.
I think what he was saying was correct, you know, and it's going to be up to him to decide whether he wants to, you know, listen to that and, you know, really take heed of the information and the opinion that, you know, that Joe was giving.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, aside from a doctor, which is obviously the first person that you should take this opinion from, or this advice from, I think in the field of fighting, Joe Rogan would be top level of somebody that you would listen to, that has fought before, and that it admits up to him quitting because he started to get headaches.
Right.
Also, just as many fights as he's watched, and he's been around for long enough to see. I remember another interview where he said he remembers talking to somebody 15 years ago and talking to them now, and they're two different people, and you can't even hold conversations with them.
Right.
And that's from the repeated abuse on the brain. And so even from our point of view as commentators, and as media, we get a lot of flack too for giving our opinions. That's our jobs though, to commentate, to give our opinions, and sometimes it's not favorable if you're the fighter and if you're on the losing end of something, and we call what we see. You know, it's never easy, and that's was one thing that Joe was saying too. It's easy for me to tell this to you, and it was hard for Schaub to hear that from him, and they kind of went back and forth. But I think when it's all said and done, the dust settles. Brendan Schaub is smart enough to really take some of that in, and I'd like the line too where, you know, he's like, I'm gonna fight again. I think I can beat him, and Rogan's like, of course you do, because you're the fighter. That you're supposed to think that way, and I'm the commentator, and I'm supposed to think this way. So we'll see. I'm very curious to see what Brendan Schaub does. He's barely ranked. You know, I think this probably drops him below 10, maybe 8 or 9, somewhere in there. But yeah, how much more do you want to this was his chance kind of to beat him and get to the top 3. And with everything going on now, it's a long time. He said he wants to fight 4 more times. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to be a smart idea.
Right. So, and then, you know, like you were saying, it's sort of one thing if you're at the top level of the sport, and if you have, if you're at the right age, you know, at the right sort of time, and he sort of has all those things against him right now, and you have to really start thinking about the future, and you have to you have to consider the things that you care about the most. Now, it's easy for us as commentators to say that because, you know, we're not the ones actually having to do that. It's easy for us to be like, yeah, you should cut your career short. You know, that might be the correct decision, but hey, you know, this is your life. You have to be willing to, you know, deal with whatever comes in the future if you decide to, you know, continue fighting. And if he does and he feels like that's fine, you know, hey, go for it. Who are we to stop you?
Yeah.
But I just hope that in the future he doesn't turn around and, you know, say, oh my God, you know, I fought too long, or you know, why didn't I stop? You know, you don't want to hear someone end up having regrets at the end of the day too. So at the end, you know, it's his decision. He's going to have to decide what he wants to do.
Yep. So after the show today, I'm gonna throw that up on the Kick and Make Up group page, and you guys go check it out, take a listen to it, comment below what you guys think. I mean, it's like I said, it's probably gonna be one of the best things you've listened to all year as an MMA fan. So sit back and enjoy it for an hour, and let us know what you think on the group page. So yeah, I had to get that out, man, because it was such a good interview.
Definitely.
So we are gonna go right into our high kick. For those of you that don't know how the show goes, we have a high kick of the week, which was the best thing that happened, the low kick, which was the worst, and that's some bull kick, where we just talk shit about something odd and give our opinion on that. And that's I love that section.
Yeah, that's the best one.
Yeah, it is. We're gonna start with the high kick today. The success of UFC 181 this past weekend. One of the best cards of the year, I think. With all the cards, it's been interesting to see them finally put together a top to bottom good card. And I know a lot of the things hearing on Monday and Tuesday was like, that's how the old cards used to be. They used to have a couple title fights, great prelims, every fight you were looking forward to. And every fight meant something, you know, minus the Todd Duffy fight. But that was still a fun fight. I know why they put it on there. So, yeah, we'll just start off with the main event, because we just have to.
Yeah.
Brand new welterweight champion Robbie Lawler finally gets that strap around his waist, beating Johnny Hendricks this time in a decision. So, very similar. I feel like the fight was really similar to the first fight, to where it was back and forth. It came down to that last round, almost the last few minutes of the last round. Right. And it was almost like a complete opposite ending, where the first fight, Robbie got taken down and Hendricks grinded his way out to a win in his hometown. This time, there was no grinding. It was Lawler hitting that switch that last minute. Yeah. And just going, you know, balls to the wall, and almost knocked him out. Yeah,
I know Lawler came out really strong too, and I know that you judge fights by rounds. Yeah. But there's something that goes to show that a fighter, you know, starting out really strong, ending really strong, does really matter. And you know, right after the fight was over, you know, we were all together watching it, but right after the fight was over, we sort of, you know, looked and said, like, man, you know, he just won it. Like, at the very end of that fight, he just won it. I really feel like that fight was completely in the balance up until the last minute and a half of that fifth round. And that was anybody's fight. If Hendricks had, you know, pulled it out and did exactly what Robbie did, I think Hendricks would have won that fight.
I do too.
I know there's a lot of, I won't say a lot, there's some controversy from what I've been reading online, and a lot of people feeling like Lawler didn't deserve the win. I totally disagree with that. As soon as it was over, I was like, Lawler won it. He won it. And just seeing the way that Hendricks was sort of grabbing and not fighting, just sort of tying them up, like, I think you lose points for that. Yeah. I think aggressiveness is something that you have to give points for. You know, if you were scoring it, I don't know if it's a scale of 1 to 100.
Score on that though. You score on aggression.
Yeah.
So and I mean,
you could see who was the aggressive fighter. You could see that the shots that he was taking, he was sort of that Hendricks was taking. He was sort of trying to change up his game plan, because I don't think that was exactly his game plan when he was going in. So he sort of started you know, grabbing and, sort of had his head between Lawler's legs a lot, just sort of holding on for dear life, and that doesn't look good.
No.
And I think the trained eye can see that.
Yeah.
It kind of sucked seeing or hearing the crowd booing and stuff too, because it wasn't as action packed, I guess, as they would want it to be. But there still was a lot of action. I didn't feel disappointed at the end of that fight.
No, and that was a lot of the controversy too with GSP when he would grind his way out to a win over and over and over. And there was the people that said, "Well, figure out a way to stop that. You can't complain. That's his game plan." And I think Hendricks is very similar to that type of game plan, although he's so much heavier handed than GSP.
But you know what? There was a difference. Sorry to interrupt you. There was a difference, I think, in what GSP would do as opposed to what Hendricks did.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, I would say, Hendricks wasn't in a dominant position when he was holding.
Right.
Most of those times when GSP was grinding people to dust,
He was on top.
He was on top,
Yeah.
right? He's on top. Either going for position, landing in some short elbows, landing some, some shots to the body. He was doing things, and you could tell that he was in control, even though he may not have been as active as some people would like. But, Hendricks wasn't like that. He was sort of just holding on for dear life and trying to keep Lawler from dealing any more damage to him.
And I had Robbie winning 1-4-5, which for me as a champion, those are the rounds that champions want to win. They want to come out strong. They want to kind of coast 2 and 3, and they want to explode for 4 and 5. So for him to already do that before he got the belt already shows me that's a champion's mentality of fighting and winning rounds that way too. And that last surge just shows that he did learn from his last time. He wanted it, and he's like, whatever happened last time, I'm going to dig down somewhere. And that came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, they broke free, and he just blew up for that last minute. And everybody was just like, damn, he was about 10 seconds from getting knocked out. It was Hendricks.
And then those last, I would say, 5 to 10 seconds after the fight is over, those count too. And as soon as it was over, you see Lawler is, just amped up, gassed up, still ready to go another, 3-4 minutes. And Hendricks is looking exhausted.
I feel he hit the ground, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he
dropped to his knees.
I believe. He was done. He was done. And I mean, that means something. If you weren't sure, even up until that last flurry, if you weren't sure who was, in control of that fight, you figured it out right then. Yeah. So, if you were still up in the air, you had to slide your vote for that round over to Lawler. So,
so we will be seeing a trilogy. That's not official yet. I know Rory McDonald wanted to get his shot, but you have to have a trilogy. You have to have a third fight. I believe it probably will come early March because March, the St. Patrick's Day shows are always big. So it could be then, it could be in April, but it will be, I think it will be coming soon. The first time they had to wait a lot longer because of an injury from Hendricks. I don't believe there's been any injury reports, maybe just some suspensions. But I'm looking forward to seeing that one too. It could go back in either way again. I mean, it's a good pairing. I've got a good article coming out next week in Hola America too, where I interviewed Pat Militich and Matt Pena to get the coach's point of view from training Robbie and all that. So keep an eye out for that. But awesome main event, co-main event of the night: Anthony Pettis versus Gilbert Melendez for the lightweight title. Beautiful fight to go into for a co-main. Pettis won via guillotine in round 2. Came out, after a 1.5 year injury. And he just looking at both of them, he just looked ready to go. He looked like Dominic Cruz-esque of that. I've been waiting so long, and you knew something good was gonna happen. It did. Melendez, said afterwards, he's just too young, too fast, too much better than me, and it just showed tonight. What sucks is that there's a potential hand injury for Pettis, and that's kind of a gray area right now. I read that they have to issue out the suspension right away, and then they go get their own doctor checked out to confirm that. So we may have to wait 6 more months to watch Pettis fight again, which is I don't know, man. That sucks because I mean, we get to watch this dude. This is like one of the best fighters fight once a year, and it's just like so. Then the best division right now, it gets put on hold kind of for 6 months.
After it was on hold for a year.
Yeah, and a half. Yeah. So I did like how #1 contender Khabib Nurmagomedov challenged Pettis at the press conference, and Pettis, unofficially said yes. But what do you think, man, with the lightweight division and Pettis coming back out and all that, man?
Man, first off, just speaking on the fight, Melendez, I thought, had the right game plan going in. He was, sort of doing what Hendricks was doing, but being a little more aggressive too.
Grimier.
Definitely grimier. He was grinding him up against the cage, getting shots in of his own, sort of separating for a little bit, but then going right back in. And he was aggressive in that fashion, and I really think that that's probably one of the only ways that you can beat Pettis.
Right.
Unless you find somebody who's just an exceptional striker. But just seeing the way and how quick and how precise Pettis threw on that, that guillotine, it was, ridiculous. And it's just, you just have to marvel at his talent, his level of talent. And, coming off of that, that long break, there is, big fight, cage rust. There's, and then to just jump to, already, you didn't have a tune-up fight or anything like that. You go right into title defense against, a great fighter. It just shows where he's at. I really, really hope that his hand injury isn't very serious, so that hopefully he can, fight sooner rather than later. But you just have to look at his talent and appreciate his talent, and that has to be a daunting task to see someone like him, across the octagon from you, because you don't know what do you do? Yeah. He can strike. He's not just a striker. He's a crazy striker. He can come from any angle. He's gonna pull off something off the wall. Almost immediately in your fight. Right.
Off the wall.
Right. Almost immediately in your fight, and you don't know where that submission is going to come from too. So
and you're not even you're so ready for the spinning stuff that you forget that he's also beautiful on the ground too.
Yes.
And I think we all, like you said, the quickness of that guillotine was just like, whoa! It was on a second and tapped out in the next second, and it was done.
On deep, rolled over, it was over.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm just, like I said, I hope he's not injured, and I hope he can fight soon again, because I want to see this lightweight. I want to see Khabib and Pettis. I liked what Khabib said. He said that Melendez had the right game plan. He's got a similar game plan. He's just gonna do it better. He's a better wrestler. He can stay onto him tighter. He's not going to give him any space to be able to get off those shots. And Khabib's just been right there for almost 2 years now, just ready for this title fight. And I want to see it too. Gilbert got it because he's a bigger name, I feel, too. And that's fine. It was an awesome, it was a great, tough finale. Or it was a great, tough season and fun to watch, and that's why they got it too. But I'm excited to see who Pettis fights next, just because I'm excited to see Pettis fight again.
And then, too, this is kind of a random thought. I was just shocked at how big Melendez walks around at his weight. And I know that he always does that, but I always wonder about certain fighters. Does that, take something out of you?
Yeah.
When you walk around, easily 30 pounds heavier, if not 35 pounds.
Well, you can see the side-by-side comparison. I mean, Pettis is lean, freaking 5% body fat, and just shredded, and then Melendez looked a heavy 55, or a stockier 55. And for speed, that definitely plays a part. So something to think about later. I thought, too, if he is injured, and we do have to wait 6 months, maybe they bring it back again to Milwaukee in the summer,
please,
for that his re-debut again.
Please.
June, July, Milwaukee.
I mean, you have to have he has to have a title defense at home, wouldn't you think?
I think so, UFC, right?
But I mean, they do that sort of thing all the time. So
that would be the one upside to the injury of the 6 months.
Yes.
That put it right around the time to just have a nice little summer show in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excited. I'm excited for that.
Right.
It's not even
real, but
so the heavyweight fight, Travis Brown versus Brendan Schaub. We touched on that a little bit. Travis Brown TKO'd Schaub in the first round, landed a big knee, and then just made Schaub turtle up, ended it. I knew that was gonna happen. I like Brendan Schaub a lot too, and weirdly, listening to his podcast made me like him more. But still, at the end of the day, I'm like, oh man, Travis Brown's a murderer. He's one of those that I feel like is gonna be in a title fight within this year, 2015. Just the way he fights too. He doesn't say much. He just goes in there. He's too quick for a heavyweight. He does throw those spinning moves too, and the corkscrew elbows, and he's just long too, and he is a huge threat, and the fact that he's quiet too just makes it worse. So.
Yeah, and he has that edge that you don't always see in fighters, and you want that edge, that finish mentality. And some people are 100% cool with going in and getting a win, doing what they need to do to get a win. But he goes into a fight trying to get a win, but in the process of getting a win, he wants to hurt you.
Yep.
And those elbows are probably my favorite. Well, right up there with John Jones. Just his ability to, like you said, corkscrew those elbows, and I really think it's underutilized, but he's great at that.
Yeah.
And
it's
just
nasty.
seeing him do that, on a consistent basis, and just he wants to finish a fight.
Yep.
And you have to be scared with people who want to finish fights like that. And it's needed in the heavyweight division. I think the heavyweight division is lacking a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially sort of in star power. And I think that he may be able to do that with what he does, in the cage. Maybe not so much outside the cage, but once he's in there, he's locked and loaded. So yeah, I definitely see him getting a title shot, probably before the end of 2015.
I would say even closer with the heavyweight card we'll talk about later this week on Fox with Velasquez out. Just some different things. He's still ranked number 3, if not higher now, after this weekend. So we'll see what happens this weekend, and then I'm sure we'll see him maybe on the undercard of the March Lawler Hendricks 3. Put the Brown in, a contender fight for heavyweight and the co-main. That'd be nice. We're just putting together the dream card we want.
Yeah. I mean, forget a dream card. We're just putting together fights that should happen.
That's true.
There's
that's
no
true.
reason.
There is no dream card. This is the facts.
Yeah,
this is
and
factual
and
card.
There's no reason that these can't happen. It's not like we're trying to do fantasy MMA.
No, we're not trying to do
happen.
CM Punk and Green Ranger. That's a little preview. We'll get to that later. The next fight, heavyweight. Yeah, we'll wait. Todd Duffy, Anthony Hamilton. They let Todd Duffy back in after I don't know, 2 years or something.
Yeah.
He was a killer too. I mean, his last 3 fights before that were first round knockouts, I believe, minus the time where he got knocked out himself in the last 5 seconds of the Mike Russo fight. But he knocked out Hamilton round 1. We all saw that coming. Nice addition to the card. Fun to watch. Big knockout. Don't know what they're going to do with Todd Duffy now. He is still a big threat. He's like one of the biggest action figure looking heavyweights in there too, as far as just muscle. And so he's, you're always going to get a good fight with him and 90% chance of a knockout.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do with him. And then to kick off the fight night, the main event, the main card, lightweight, Abel Trujillo versus Tony Ferguson. Ferguson did come out and sub Trujillo round 2, rear naked choke. Man, personally for me, I'm excited. I'm still excited to see Abel Trujillo fight. I feel like he just needs to get that cardio under control, and realize that these are not 1-round fights.
Right.
So,
mad disappointed. especially to see him come out the way he came out, you know, ultra aggressive, landing strikes. You saw that, you know, Ferguson was a little bit nervous, and, you know,
as he should be. And nothing to take
Right.
away from Ferguson, winner of Tough 14 on a 3-fight win streak,
Right.
and lightweight division 2.
Yeah, that's a big win.
Yeah, and this
That's
is
a big
gonna
win.
skyrocket him too. He's gonna be a threat also in the lightweight division. There's just something when I watch Abel Trujillo that I'm like, man, you've got that killer instinct that nobody has really from a different level. That if you could just hone in the rest of your skills, that we could have something here. But
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, and like you said, that cardio is definitely important. And then to see the way that fight ended, and I don't know if it was because he was tired or if it was just a total loss of, you know, fighters' mentality, or I don't know. Maybe he thought he was at home. Maybe he thought he was, you know, you know, sitting on his bed or something. But
Yeah.
you know, just to see him, he was crouched down, and then he sort of just sat up like this. And I mean, like, in the split second that it took me to realize that he's in a vulnerable position, his opponent already realized that and threw the choke on him. And it was
Yeah.
just like, what are you doing?
I think
Like,
there's, the only thing I thought of when I saw that is there's times like when you spar and there's a minute and a half left in the round and you're done. You just put your hands up and you let the other person just wail on you until the round's over. And that's the equivalent probably for when you're grappling and doing jiu-jitsu too. You're tired. You just kind of, you know, leisurely throw your arm out.
Right.
And you like, I'm done. Whether you're in front of millions or you're in front of 10 people in your own gym, it's the same mentality. When you're done, I think you're done.
Right.
And so that sucks because it means you're just on such a high level and such a big stage. But I think the mentality is still there for him. That cardio too. When you're tired, you are tired.
Right.
You are done.
Right.
And you just want to get out of it. You don't want to fight 3 minutes or 5 minutes for them is an extremely long time when you're already done. So I think that's what happened. But we'll see what happens with Ferguson later on this year. And then the main event of the prelims, Uriah Faber also bulldog chokes out Francisco Rivera, and Raquel Pennington also did a bulldog choke in her fight. So great prelims. Faber, who knows?
Eye poke.
Yep, I forgot about the eye poke too.
Yeah.
Nobody saw the eye poke. He
Yeah.
did. I think he did admit up to poke him in the
Yeah.
eye and said, "Well,
Yeah.
it's not my job to stop the fight." You know, he didn't see it. Nobody called. So that's kind of weird. Like, I did poke him in the eye. You're not gonna poke him in the eye and stop yourself.
Right. No.
It's not cheating,
No.
really. It's
No.
that gray area.
And yeah, it wasn't.
But
a
it wasn't
situation-
intentional,
No,
so-
it wasn't intentional. He wasn't trying to do that.
No.
It happens, but you would like to see the referee recognize that and, you know, slow the fight up a little bit and stop him for a second. So
Could be
that
a
they can
no. I
recover.
mean, you also could go back and give it a no contest too.
Yeah.
A win off the eye poke, and that would be a no contest. But you know, we'll move on. We'll see what happens with Uriah Faber too. He'll win his next 3, get a title shot, lose, and then do this thing again and again. So I like Uriah Faber too.
I do
but
too.
I'm
I really
exhausted.
like him,
I'm
man.
exhausted watching Uriah Faber. So yeah. So that was the high kick. That was UFC 181. God, man, that's how good of a card it was. That it's, you know, Thursday, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
Everybody's still talking about it. It had very many ramifications for later on in the year, and we'll just see what happens with this.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, ladies and gentlemen, our low kick.
Can we? How about instead of low kick, can we give this like bull kick A, and then we have like bull kick
I did
B?
think about that when I was doing the notes. This is a bull kick.
Yeah,
this is a
this
bull
is-
kick. So we'll leave out low kick. I like that. Bull kick point 1
Right.
dash 1
Right.
out of a current 2.
One of two.
One of two. All right. So CM Punk from the WWE signs with the UFC. That was the big reveal from UFC 181.
Go
God.
ahead.
I don't even know what I thought it was gonna be, but I thought it was gonna be something awesome, and then that happened. Then I saw his face, and I was like, not that I don't like him, but I was like, why? Okay, so he signs a deal with the UFC. He's 36. He has no professional fighting. He changed. I love how people are saying He trains jiu-jitsu. Awesome. So does my 7-year-old son.
Awesome.
So, like, it's great, dude. It's great, dude. You train, you do some jiu-jitsu.
Don't even get into the second part yet.
So
let's just dive into CM Punk.
So, yeah. So this is not Brock Lesnar coming into the UFC, which a lot of people say, oh, Brock did it. Brock was also NCAA champion.
Right. A world-class level
freak of nature
wrestler.
Athlete.
Right.
Had been doing this, since he was, 7 or 8 wrestling, and just coming up. Very, very different. Can't compare. Yeah. So that's the big thing for me. I mean, I don't know how far you want me to go into this before. I won't give the second part, but I also just noted that for me this was a big red flag of just how bad the UFC is doing financially, because I like to see people give their justifications of why they signed CM Punk, and a lot of people said it's because he has so many followers on Twitter and so many fans from the WWE that this is going to cross over all those fans and bring them in, which I completely disagree about. Completely different fans, wrestling and fighting fans.
Yes.
I used to be a fan of wrestling when I was younger, and I still, will turn it for a minute or two here and there, very, very rarely. But I, complete 100% in on MMA, and they're two separate fans. There is no crossover.
Okay, I have a question too before I talk about that part. But was this the time is now announcement that didn't make it?
Ugh.
That's the first thing I wondered.
Oh,
I'm like, is this what it was?
Probably.
And I'm thinking that it wasn't that it didn't get signed in time. It was that it was bad, and they finally realized that maybe we shouldn't blow this up right now. The only other thing it could have been was the Reebok deal.
I want to hope that it was the Reebok deal. I want to hope that with all the forum that they did of bringing everybody in like a telethon and having them sit there in their suits, that Reebok was the big announcement, because that is a big announcement. We'll talk about that later too.
But couldn't you just see them trying to walk out CM Punk and putting him on that stage too?
That's a gamble. You're either gonna have cheers or silence.
Yes.
And
dead silence.
And with the Reebok deal, you're gonna at least have some ooh.
Right.
You're not gonna have complete silence. So
right. Let's hope it was that. But my conspiracy theorist says maybe that was it.
Oh, my hands just twitch right now. That is something weird, because I'm just like, ugh, like I'm backing up. So why don't you say the second half of our BullKick -1?
Yes. Jason David Frank of Power Rangers fame. Yes, Power Rangers. You probably never thought we would end up talking Power Rangers, and he wasn't even my favorite Ranger.
He was mine.
No, he wasn't my favorite Ranger.
Mine.
I remember when the Green Ranger first came out and the whole miniseries.
Yeah, they turned the white one.
Shit was awesome. Right, this shit was awesome. But I was always a Black Ranger fan. And did you ever notice how the Rangers were
yes,
color
coded? Color coded, yes. How the Asian Ranger was yellow. Odd.
God, the Black Ranger was black. But I mean, I was definitely a Black Ranger fan. I also like the Red Ranger. Didn't like the Blue Ranger.
I was 12, so I liked the Pink Ranger because I wanted to date the Pink Ranger at 10 or 12.
See, I was a Yellow Ranger fan. Sorry.
And then the Green Ranger came in, and I knew at some point.
We were talking Power Rangers.
I love it, man.
Yeah, but
yeah,
Jason David Frank signed up and said that, I think that I should be the first person to fight him. And the ridiculous part of it is he has a better resume than CM Punk does with mixed martial arts and actual real fighting. Yeah. So
yeah, I remember when he came out 5 years ago. That fight went viral. Everybody, it was jacked too. So we're like, Jesus Christ, man, the Green Ranger's on steroids. And he, the fight was quick, I think, too, and it was, whatever. And he's 4-0 amateur, 1-0 pro. So that might happen. And then the co-main event might be Hulk Hogan versus a Ninja Turtle. It might be. I don't know.
Which turtle though? He's not. I don't think Hogan's good enough for like Leonardo or Raphael. He had to take on like Donatello.
Michelangelo maybe.
Yeah, he's goofy.
Goofy.
Yeah,
and have Hulk Hogan do some goofy stuff too. Just
right.
a goofy. That's what's gonna. I mean, with us talking about CM Punk and the Green Ranger, Hulk Hogan and Michelangelo or Donatello is not that far down the street.
Just as much
around the corner. It's around the corner. So I mean. Yeah, so Google CM Punk. I know one of Conor McGregor's training partners. I can't remember his name right now, but he has also he has also jumped up to say he wants to fight him too. But his record's like 15-2 or something. So you're not gonna do that to CM Punk.
Yeah,
and that's what I said.
Who does he fight? Beside the Green Ranger.
I don't know.
And do you sign the Green Ranger?
And then what is he? He's gonna fight at 85, I believe.
That's
welterweight.
That's a ridiculous division to try to throw yourself into.
I feel like you just threw yourself into the Johnny Hendricks, Robbie Lawler division. No, that's welterweight. That's 170. So you threw yourself into the Anderson Silva Anderson Silva. Yeah, 185. That's middleweight.
Yep.
185 middleweight. So good luck. I like that people said too, different camps are wanting to sign him. Obviously, they're wanting to sign him and bring him in because that's gonna be money.
Mm-hmm.
Man, dude, do what I did and train for a year. Do what everybody should do. Train for a year and don't take a fight and see if you still like it after that year. Right. And you're gonna. I mean, obviously, my level and everybody else's amateur level. You do it. It's so different. Train professionally for a year. And then when you're done, assess your broken bones and your injuries and the time, right, and realize that it's not wrestling, because I think he thinks that it's going to be very similar to his wrestling career, and it's not going to be. And so so hopefully we don't see CM Punk soon.
And wrestling, first off, wrestling takes a huge toll on your body. So it's not like he's going into this being the freshest guy on the block.
Right.
Yeah, he hasn't been with WWE for a while, and they had a big, falling out between them. But there's a huge leap to go from wrestling to the UFC. And I mean, it's not like he's going to Bellator or World Series of Fighting. Not shitting on them at all, but they are, below the UFC. You're going to the highest level. I don't know who they could grab to throw a fight with you.
We're not gonna be very familiar because they said they want to get somebody that's either debuting, that's 0-1 or 1-0. So you're gonna get somebody that has no fights and you're just gonna be debuted for both, or that has either won or lost one. And that's fair. I get that, but we're not gonna really know. I don't think who the person is. We're gonna maybe just by name value, but not really. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're not gonna. We've only seen this guy probably once, so I just think it's interesting too.
How many pro debuts do you see the UFC do?
Very few, man.
And that's just where I'm thinking. Okay, I get it. I get this financially to some degree. I get it financially. That has to be the only thing that Dana White is banking on this, literally, is that he's gonna get some money out of the deal because of the extra fans that are gonna come aboard and want to see it because of CM Punk. But in any other way, it makes no sense at all.
And I don't believe anything anymore. I don't believe what I won't say. I don't believe what Dana White, but I don't believe what I hear anymore because I will give that co-main event podcast. I was listening to it, and they said something awesome that they said a long time ago they weren't going to do these kind of fights. They weren't just going to sign big names like this to bring in. They're doing that now, and the point they made the best was they wouldn't sign Cyborg and they wouldn't sign Ben Askren because they hadn't fought enough, and he needed to see more fights before he signed them. So then you signed CM Punk. So obviously that wasn't the reason why you didn't sign them by doing this. So I don't see. Yeah, I mean,
We all know the reason that Cyborg wasn't signed at the time.
Yes.
Because you didn't want to crush the golden
goose. Yep. So I don't know, man. I have a feeling we're gonna be talking about CM Punk throughout the year, and go from there. But if that was the time is now, no. Like the time can wait.
Maybe the only savior for this is if we get some sort of UFC first like tag team fight. So like maybe CM Punk could bring in like, you know, D-Generation X or you know, the 1, 2, 3 Kid. I'm trying to think of old school wrestlers who aren't dead.
Yeah, I was just gonna start naming like, nah, that's a scary fight. He's not coming back from it yet.
But then we could get like the Rangers, you know, like maybe 2 or 3 of the Rangers.
They could stand on top of each other's shoulders.
Dude, they could form. What was the thing's name?
Megatron? No, that's Transformers. Oh, Mega something.
Yeah, it was Zord, Megazord. I think
we'll go with that.
Megazord.
Tweet
us. At Kick and Make.
Yes, please tell us what the Transform.
Like I'm a huge nerd and I'm embarrassed that I can't remember.
What the
I want to say it was Megazord.
Yeah.
I want to say it was Megazord.
I think you're thinking Zord because of Zordon, and he was the face.
Yeah, the floating head. That's who you need. How do you sub a floating head?
Very carefully, because once that thing was down, remember he fell out of it and he was all dying like in the movie. Once that thing was shattered, he was a real person that was dying. So I don't think you can take him out of that. I love it, man. Kick and Make Up at Kick and Make Up at Hybrid MMA. Let us know what you think about all these potential fights, but the CM Punk and Green Ranger one's for real. It's for realsies. So
if that could happen,
not. It's potentially happen. It's gonna go on. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
BullKick -2. UFC partners with Reebok for a 6-year deal that will have fighters wear the UFC Reebok apparel only during fight week, fight night, any other UFC events, and when they go to sleep and when they wake up and when they eat breakfast. No, but at UFC themed events, I said the positive for this is Reebok is gonna pour money, and that's what their words. So when they say pour money, like that's what they said. They're gonna pour money into research and development.
P-O-O-R.
Yes, pour money into development of apparel and gear specifically geared towards fighters. Which I thought, if they really do that, that's awesome because you get some new gloves, you get some safer gloves, you get some, more the moisturist of wicking gear,
right?
That, just stuff like that. If they really do put money into gear, that's awesome,
right?
But I want to see that gear quickly,
right.
For the fighters. It's a guaranteed income for fighters based on ranking. That's a plus and minus depending on where you're ranked on a tier level. I know you've written into this a lot more, and that they have royalty on anything sold that has their name on it. So if Pettis has Reebok gear and you go out and buy the Pettis shirt,
that
supposedly
he wore,
that he
already wore.
So he gets a royalty on that. Once again, I think that only benefits the top tier people. Yeah. So I know you read. What do you think? I know you read way into it.
Those top tier guys are already making most of the money anyway.
Right.
To me the downside of this is for the lower level fighters who, I don't know if everybody understands this or not, but you can't have a sponsor outside of Reebok. So I guess you can have a sponsor still, and but they're not gonna get anything out of it during a UFC fight week or the pre-fight press conference, any of the pre-fight stuff. The walkout, you can't have a banner that has anything other than Reebok on it.
And that's when you get the pictures taken, and that's when your brand gets sold.
Exactly. I mean, you can't tell me the first time I even learned about training masks is because it was on the ass of some fighter, and I'm like, what is a training mask? Let me go Google it real quick. Boom, it just worked for them. and it worked for that fighter, and it helped to justify why they're paying them whatever they're paying them. And that type of thing isn't going to happen anymore. You can't tell me that there are going to be sponsors that are still going to pour the money that they pour, that are still going to give the money that they were giving to the fighters before this.
No.
There's no way that they're going to continue to do that. I don't feel like this was something that was this is something that reeks of desperation by the UFC. And those it's really scary when you start thinking about it and you start putting some of the pieces of the puzzle together, because if 2 years from now the UFC is defunct, the signs started about 3 to 4 months ago.
Yeah.
You know,
yep.
like, and they're starting to roll now. You're starting to get certain things happening now, like the CM Punk signing, which makes no sense. This Reebok deal, it makes sense to some degree, but I think the UFC is looking at that $70 million that they're going to get over, I think, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking at that and saying, okay, well, yeah, we kind of just sold out our fighters, but we're going to get this influx of money, which we desperately probably need.
Yep.
And that's scary. It's a great deal for Reebok.
No, yeah.
Reebok is like, oh my God, yes, let's do this. All we got to do is put out a few pairs of shorts and, you know, some shirts that look generic with Showtime Pettis on it and a Reebok logo.
But the fighters get to pick their colors. That was in the thing too, in the pros and cons.
Ooh.
The pros was like the fighters get to pick what color they want. Who cares? That was really, when typing that out, you really thought that was gonna be something that stood out to be like, oh, this sucks. Oh man, but I can pick blue or green. Oh man, good.
Yep.
I'm in.
And then there's probably more than one type of blue.
Oh man,
got
aqua,
a royal blue,
turquoise,
cobalt blue.
I love
My personal
cobalt.
favorite.
I love cobalt blue too.
I do too.
Man. Yeah,
the other thing that I wanted to say something about is that the fighters are getting their pay based on their rankings. Okay. The first thing, and I can't take credit for this idea, this is something that I read. I don't exactly know where I read it, but just, you know, in the tons of stuff that I read, I can remember people discussing and talking about how, okay, the fighters are ranked not only by the UFC, but the media also has a vote in that.
Mm-hmm.
Feasibly, if we did this for a little while longer, we could end up with a vote.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to base, if I was a fighter, would you want your lifestyle, your way of living based on what I feel you did?
No.
Or how well I think you did?
No.
Like, it's ridiculous. We've had circumstances where, I think it was Diaz, was taken off the rankings just because Dana White was kind of pissed at him.
Right.
That type of shit can't fucking happen. Like, you are directly affecting his pay at that point.
Yeah.
It's not like where it was sort of subjective before. Now you are directly affecting how much money he's getting. So if you say, all right, you're done, you're not going to be on the rankings anymore, where's your line of income now?
Yep.
There is none. There isn't one.
That was with Dominic Cruz. He was ranked number 10, lowest level, and then he won, and he was ranked number 1.
Yep.
So in one fight, you're telling me in one fight you went from 10 to 1? That's not even possible as far as fair rankings and how they go. So it's going to be a popularity contest for rankings. It's going to be who's doing the most for the UFC at the time for rankings. It's not going to be based off of performance, and that's unfortunate. I have a weird, controversial stance on this too, which some people watching this might just not like it, but for me, this a weird light, a positive light that shines on this is that this is going to weed out the people that are not really in this for the long haul. Like I think I want to be a fighter, so I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna this should make you say to yourself as a professional fighter or an amateur going into professional fighting that the window to be a professional fighter is so small and so judged based off of not fighting
Right.
almost, and who you know and where you train out of and how much marketing you can get for yourself. And it is based on that this should make you think if you want to be a fighter or not. This is going to weed out like some of those lower tiered fighters that maybe did get a ton of sponsors from businesses in their hometown and other places, and maybe they did nab a big deal from like a mid-level company that got them, you know, 10 grand for the year, which for them, that's awesome. That's that's good. That's 10 grand. But that's gone now, you know, or it's that fighter, that company that was going to sponsor you 10 grand because you were on the prelims or you were on the Facebook fights or the UFC Fight Pass fights. You still were going to get something on streaming. Right. You know, your brand still gets out there. It doesn't get on the pay-per-view, but it gets on the Fight Pass or it gets on prelims. That's gone now. So do you really want to, I mean, I know for my career, I look at what's going to stick around and what I can flourish in, so do you. A career fighter, now it's not looking as lucrative as it did, 5 years ago, 1 year ago. I mean, we've said that too. We were the generation that made fighting a career. I always thought that was goofy. Even when I amateur fought, everybody's like, this is what you're going to do? No, this is not what I'm going to do. Like, this is what I'm doing right now for fun and, but no, I'm not going to be a career fighter. So, 5% of people get to be the millionaire career fighters, and the rest are going to be on a 5-tier level now with a, like you said, plain Jane shirt that says UFC Reebok.
Right. And like, I don't get that from that from that angle. I think, and I don't know if you were gonna say this too, but I know that we talked about right before the show how people like Bellator and World Series of Fighting, they're gonna get some good fighters out of this because they're not gonna do something like that.
Right.
And some of these guys are gonna, on the lower levels, who maybe some diamonds in the rough, who do want to make this a 100% career, and they aren't financially going to be able to do it, via the UFC because of, something like this happening. So World Series of Fighting, Bellator is going to get some good fighters, probably some good younger fighters,
right,
where they could really build their stock.
Yep.
And then, as the UFC continues what it's doing right now, and I should say if they continue to decline, you might find that some of those fighters are going to stay in Bellator as opposed to looking at Bellator as a stepping stone towards the UFC or something else. So yeah, it's tough for me to see the benefits of it as a fan.
Yeah.
And then it's even tougher for me to see the benefits as a fighter. I mean, unless you're the best of the best,
right,
why does this even matter? And even the guys who are the best of the best, they're still gonna lose money. They're still losing. They're losing those sponsors, and those are relationships that you built with people. Now you're gonna have to tell them that, yeah, I guess I want you to still give me the same amount of money you were giving me before, but I don't know what I'm gonna do with it now. And I would assume that they're banned from even speaking about sponsors after fights too. I would assume that.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know. I feel like that should be like they should at least let them. But if they win, thank the sponsors.
If that's the case, though, you're gonna get the Joe Rogan press conference after the fight is gonna be just let me thank my sponsor. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They're gonna ban that.
They're gonna ban that too. Yeah, and I mean that because that's what it's gonna turn into.
Yeah.
And
so I mean, the fighters are just gonna have to get creative. Every fighter is gonna have to have their own website. They're gonna have to have their, which they probably already do, but they're just gonna have to amp up their websites, amp up their Twitter, amp up their Facebook, amp up Instagram, and really market it that way to the sponsors. Look, I can't do it here, but I'm gonna do it every other avenue I can, and hopefully that works for them. But this doesn't start till July. I think they're gonna start with the Fan Expo, big July show, big July weekend. I think that's the first time that they're gonna debut all the Reebok stuff. So, you're gonna see a ton of sponsor stuff between now and then as a final thank you, and it's just crazy, man. So that was I'm curious to see what goes on with this.
Yeah, and it just overall, it just makes me really, really nervous for the brand that is the UFC. And
yeah, it's definitely a good, interesting year for him, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I said good, but it's an interesting year for the UFC coming off of 2014. What's going to happen in 2015?
Right.
And there's some red flags that it's going to be quite interesting. So we will definitely keep you guys up to date with everything and go from there. Man, so closing out last week, going into this weekend, we're going to give you guys a preview of what's coming up this weekend. Tomorrow, December 12th, Tough 20 finale. Carla Esparza versus Rose Namajunas is the main event. They won last night, respectively, and that was probably the people that they thought was going to win. Carla was definitely picked to win the whole thing. And once we learned about Rose and saw her a little bit, we just kind of thought, damn, this girl is fiery, and she may take it too. So
I'm a fan of hers, man. I just watching the show, I kind of like her attitude, and it's kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of weird like that, because the Rousey thing kind of turns me off at times, but for some reason she kind of does something a little similar to that, and she's kind of cocky and confident, but I like it with her. I don't know what it is. So
she's gonna give Carla a fight. I mean, and also I had Jessica Penne winning over Carla Esparza just for some reason. I've been a Jessica Penne fan for a while, so I wanted to see Rose and Penne fight. I thought that was gonna be real grimy and gritty. Carla's gonna try to wrestle Rose a lot, which I'm not a big fan of, but yeah, I'm excited to see this. It was a great season. I liked this season a lot. I knew the fighters coming in, which made me interested to watch each episode. However they paired it, you always had a good fight because you just had a batch of women that were good all around. So it didn't really matter who was with who. You were getting quality fights each time. But I'm curious to see who's going to be the first strawweight champion. And smart by the UFC, they just kind of can filter in challengers from the show. I mean, Felice Herrig, big name. You're going to have, the first fight. I believe the first title defense is going to either be, Randa or Jessica or a rematch. So the perfect way to do that. But yeah, very exciting to see that. Jeremy Stevens and Charles Oliveira is on that card as well, and KJ Noons versus Darren Cruikshank, which I think is going to be a striking, beautiful striking match right there. So good job from the UFC for pairing together a nice, tough finale. I know some of them kind of are up and down, but this one seems all right.
Yeah.
So that's a nice thing to watch on Friday night on Fox Sports 1, going right into the big Fox card on Saturday, UFC on Fox. Number 2 heavyweight ranked Junior Dos Santos fights Stipe Miocic. Stipe is coming off a 3-fight win streak, and Dos Santos hasn't fought since his loss to Velasquez on October 19th. I didn't realize that.
I didn't realize it was that long.
I was like, really? That's the last time he fought? So he's been on the card. He's been out for almost over a year, too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I think it's very scary because Stipe is coming off that 3-fight win streak. He's been active. He's looking very good. Dos Santos, we know, just takes a lot of damage. And then I just think for some reason Stipe just might have this and just end it off weird, and we're going into a weird 2015 and have it, it's Brown versus Miocic for the, number
that'd be
contender fight or something.
Yep, that'd be interesting, and I could see that. I could definitely see that happening too. I would go ahead and predict that would happen. Especially with JDS coming off of such a long layoff. Like he's not Pettis. You know what I mean? Like that's to me, that's gonna be the standard for someone coming back from a break. Well, I guess maybe I should wait till see the weigh-ins and see what he's looking like and what his body's looking like. So maybe I'll change that, but I'm not really thinking that at the moment.
No. Lightweight fight for the night. Rafael Dos Anjos, ranked number 3 lightweight right now, taking on ranked number 14 ranked Nate Diaz. So this is Nate Diaz's welcome back. Dos Anjos coming off a win over Ben Henderson. Diaz hasn't fought since November of 2013. So he's also coming off a huge layoff. His plan was to stop fighting, wait for people to get injured, then pop back in.
Come back.
Didn't work as you're ranked number 14. So I don't know. He's always on the Fox card. Nate Diaz. He's fun to watch. I get why they do that too. But Rafael Dos Anjos definitely ranked number 3 right now in lightweight.
Legit.
So if he wins this, then maybe they'll do Dos Anjos and Khabib for number 1 contender for Pettis. If he's not injured. So I get what they're doing with this card too, of setting up future fights. The heavyweight fight, I love Alistair Overeem versus Stefan Struve. I'm a big Overeem fan still, even though he's 1-3 in his last 4. Most recent loss to Ben Rothwell knockout. Struve is 4-1 in his last 5. He most recently lost to Mark Hunt. Had some heart problems too. One of his fights recently too.
Yeah, got stopped.
Anxiety, yeah. So I'm a huge Alistair Overeem fan, but on paper, it looks like Struve just might have this.
Yeah.
But you never know with Overeem. He can come in and just land that one shot. Both these guys can just come in and land that one shot.
I was gonna say that's the thing with Overeem too. I'm an Overeem fan, but I just don't know what to expect out of him. Like I get.
He makes you exhausted too.
Yeah, and it's just there's certain fighters where you kind of know what level of performance you're gonna get. If everything has been going smooth and they've been fighting consistently, you know what you're gonna get once they walk in. Him, I don't know. He could come in and totally dominate, or he could come in and totally just get destroyed.
Gassed,
I mean,
and then done.
First round over with. 2 minutes left in the first round, done. Like it could easily be that too. And then with Struve, you don't know what his health is. I mean, his last fight got called minutes before it was supposed to happen. So, I mean, is he healthy? I mean, do you even want to bank on him, making it to the fight? Like that's scary life and death type stuff.
Yeah.
Like you hope that he's 100% healthy, coming into this, but you just don't know. And it's a good matchup, I guess, because of that. There's a little bit of talk about it, and I guess that's all you can really hope for.
Right. And going into the next fight too, heavyweight again. So I love that this is what they're doing for Fox, for you fans, is they're putting on a bunch of heavyweights in hopes that you see some knockouts.
Destroyed. Yep.
They're doing this for entertainment value, and so that's what this next one is too. Gabriel Gonzaga versus Matt Mitrione. Mitrione coming off 2 first-round knockouts. Gonzaga coming off a loss to Miocic. I feel like Mitrione's coming off 2 knockout wins, and then Gonzaga. So I might have typed that wrong. But I like watching Matt Mitrione. He's fun to watch. Gonzaga too. Either one. I mean, they're gonna go out there. They're gonna swing. They're gonna start the night off right for Saturday night on Fox. And we're going to see a fun fight. Not a lot of implications in the heavyweight division, but still a fun fight to watch. So when you're done watching that, I think how that might go is when you're done watching that, because usually the Fox cards go from 7 to 9. Exactly. Yep. You probably can still turn it over to Fox Sports Network, watch the World Series of Fighting 16, and catch the main event, which is John Fitch versus Husamar Palhares for the World Series of Fighting welterweight world title, which 90% chance that Husamar Palhares is going to grab your ankle or leg and twist the shit out of it and hold it for 3 seconds longer than he should, and then get fined later, and then that's going to be the story that we're going to talk about. But I don't know, with John Fitch, he's a wiry guy on the ground too, so this is going to go to the ground immediately, and it could go either way. It's a weird fight. Then I kind of like it. I kind of didn't like it when I first saw it, and then I thought about it. I'm like, actually, I kind of like this one because I was always a big John Fitch fan. He was always giving some down talk for the way he fought and boring. I never thought he was that boring. And Palhares is he just rips your leg off. So who doesn't like that?
Yeah, and I mean, I really like some of the things that World Series of Fighting has been doing recently too. So. I'm a fan of their product. I'm a fan of fights in general, and I really like that there are options, And then a lot of times with the World Series of Fighting cards and the Bellator cards, and I don't know if this is just coincidence or is there, more of a growing confidence that they do a lot of these on the same nights where you have UFC stuff going on too. So they're not running. They're not saying, no, we're not gonna, the UFC has these dates, so we're gonna try to pick opposite that. No, they're trying to stack some of their stuff against, the UFC and some of the things they have going on too, which is, I think it's good. I really don't think that they lose fans through doing that. It's not like if you're a fight fan and you're watching World Series of Fighting, more likely than not, you're going to watch World Series of Fighting regardless of whether UFC was on that night or not.
Right.
So I don't think that they're losing out
No.
when they do that. But they do have the opportunity to gain some fans because you have people who turn it into a huge, gigantic fight night, where they're going to watch fights from, 5 p.m. all the way till midnight, and I think it's a good business model for them.
Yeah, so plenty to watch this weekend, and we will be back for sure. For sure, we will be back next week to cover all that's going on. There's another card coming up. There's a few more cards coming up, and you can also read that on our Kick and Make Up website and the Ola America. I went and talked about the 6 cards in December. So that's 4 weeks of December, 6 cards.
Right.
That's a lot. That's nice. Go to Kick and Make Up group book, Facebook group book page.
That too.
Facebook group page. Add yourself in. We'll get you right in. Put up some stuff. Like I said, we're gonna put up the interview from Joe Rogan that we talked about. Please watch that. Go to @HybridMMA for Twitter or at Kick and Make Up for you. Instagram, Twitter or Instagram, YouTube.
Google.
I think that's it, right? Did we get them all?
Yeah, I think that's it.
I think that's it. All right. Thank you guys for watching the Kick and Make Up Show. American Hybrid Nick Cunningham, Jeremy J.D. Dorsey. Remember, don't solve it in the streets. Take it to the cage and kick and make up.